Everybody, welcome to Music in Widescreen Video Edition. We've got for you one of my favorites, or representative from one of my favorite bands. Let's say Ross Jennings from Haken, and
Hey there.
and I actually have Haken shirt on, and of course
Nice.
it's green. So
Oh,
the
it's a
green,
green one. Yeah.
the green screen is
You're not
awesome.
transparent. No. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that
And
would be a cool shirt if that could be possible. Yeah.
absolutely. We should get one. We should make one of these shirts. Oh, I lost my mic. We should make one of these shirts that has like what do you call it? Like an equalizer on it.
Right.
And you can do when you're at the concert, you can get the equalizer of the show. Um, but I've been a pretty big fan. I've seen all your shows in Chicago, but
Nice.
the first time I saw you was in 2010
Uh-huh.
in a little town called Lydney
Ah.
at Summer's End in
Oh, okay. So
October
you've
2010. I
Lydney, of
flew over.
course. I was trying to think, where's that in America? I don't think I've
Yeah,
been there.
exactly.
Oh yeah, Lydney, of course.
Yeah,
Yeah, Summer's End Festival. Nice.
Summer's
Yeah.
End. So Key, I like it when I have a band on the show for the first time. I kind of like to do a little bit of an origin story. Can you kind of
Uh-huh.
give me a little bit of what led up to that kind of that first album? I believe I think it was Aquarius in 2010, if I remember correctly. And
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
what kind of led up to that? I know you guys were kind of jamming for a while and officially became a band maybe, I don't know, a couple years prior, or what happened
Let,
there to get to you
let's
there?
go back to where it all began.
Yes. Mm,
Well, honestly, this all started as a bedroom musicians jamming together, a pipe dream.
right.
Maybe someday we could make a band. I don't know.
Right.
We just got together and played music in each other's houses,
Right.
just practicing riffs of famous riffs that we liked and stuff like that.
Right.
It was basically just the three of us, myself, Richard,
Hmm.
and a guy called Matthew Marshall, who was an original member.
Okay.
And we this was I guess around about the time of 2003,
Okay.
and we then subsequently went off and went to university and did our studies and kind of put that pipe dream to bed a little bit, and returned to it when we'd all completed our sort of degrees and
All right.
gave it a shot. So we sort of started to put Haken together, and
Okay.
come 2007 now, I think, we jumped to that year.
Yeah.
We formed a full band, which included Raymond on drums. It included Pete Jones on keyboards and
Hmm.
Tom McLean on bass. And we put these demos together, which later on became titled Enter the Fifth Dimension.
Oh,
But really, it was just called 2007 2008 demo.
right.
uh,
Okay.
and in the pursuit of landing a recording contract somewhere, a record deal, we had this material which was being posted out everywhere, as many places as we could, and wanted it to reach the ears of important people. Um, Eventually, we did struggle with that in the
Mm,
beginning, honestly, and
sure.
we did our local shows and here in London, and eventually a US record label Sensory, or the Laser's Edge,
Yeah.
um,
Yep. I
gave
remember
us a
this.
shot and said, "Yeah, we'll we don't love your name, but what you're doing is really exciting, and we want to give you a chance to put a
Nice.
record together and get it out there." So Aquarius came to be, and that was our first album as a official album, I would say. But it didn't include those members. We actually, Matt and Pete had left, and
Okay.
we hired Charlie and Diego at the time to fill in those duties.
So which name didn't they like? They didn't like your
Haken,
they didn't like Haken.
yeah.
I mean, it rhymes
Um,
with bacon. You would think
right. Well,
that would be perfect.
it's a sure thing.
Yeah.
I guess it was just like none of us really could explain where the name came from,
Okay. Gotcha.
and it was just a bit of a vague one. But we
Yeah.
stuck with it because I guess we couldn't think of anything else,
Okay.
and we'd had that demo out at the time. So
Right.
yeah, the rest is history, I guess.
Awesome. Well, that's pretty exciting. By the way, so in that 2010 show that I saw you at, there was another band playing that show called Phideaux, and
Huh. All right.
she's one of your stalkers.
That's me.
That's you. Meeting Ross Jennings is a dream
Cool.
come true. She's the
Yeah.
violinist
Oh, amazing.
for Fido, and she saw you in
Oh,
England, and she's like, "Oh my god!" She
oh
probably
wow.
so It
Oh,
was
I
really
don't think she said who she who she was.
maybe not.
What made the connection? Wow, that's
Yeah, yeah.
crazy.
At the time, maybe she didn't realize that she was on the stage the same day as you were in
Perhaps,
2010.
perhaps.
But I know she's like, oh no, I remember playing with them when
Yeah,
I did
I forget who
talk
was
to her.
there that year. I think I remember Evergrey being there, but apart from that,
It was
I've forgotten.
yeah, I just know Phideaux, Utopia,
Yeah.
Haken were the
Right.
three I remember. But and so what was that show like for you guys? Was that the first that was the first festival you did? Do you remember anything about 13 years ago? 12 and a
Oh
half?
yeah, yeah, because I mean, vaguely, honestly,
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
it's I guess it was exciting for us
Yeah,
because, festival in our minds was always like the big field, like Glastonbury, tents
right,
across the field and big stages and stuff
right,
like that.
right.
So, but we were still excited to be part of a festival, and it was and we knew like the scene we were in was quite niche,
Right.
and it was really cool just to connect and get to know other bands and in our genre and other and know who the fans are, and it
Right.
was cool. It's a neat little area, nice little small village, and
Right. With a
a fun
test,
festival to be part of. Yeah,
just a
just to
little
have that
that hall
have,
there. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, just to have that respect from people was uplifting at the time. Yeah,
Yeah, it
definitely.
must be nice. I mean, it's your kind of your first album
Yeah.
and things are at least rolling, there's certainly if you have something quality, there's certainly you can get to you can quickly get a couple hundred, couple thousand fans,
Hmm.
so that's nice. It's tough to then
Yeah.
continue to break through, which you guys have done. And maybe that kind of leads me to another question I had for later in the show. But I was thinking that what's it like now for you? I mean, I've seen you play with Leprous, and I think the last Chicago show had Russell Allen's band.
The
I can't
Symphony X. Yeah.
Symphony X. Thank you
Yeah.
very much.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so it is niche, but it's maybe a little bit bigger because you're metal. Are you seeing that prog metal has a little bit more? And I wouldn't say you're like pure metal like Symphony X is, but I would say that there is something a younger vibe and a
Hmm.
bigger niche than maybe you first thought of.
Yeah, I mean, we've noticed the broad age spectrum actually of people that are coming to our shows, and particularly in the States, actually, some of these small college towns as well. A lot
Right.
of young people are coming and rocking out, and it's really good fun.
Yeah.
Um, and I know that certainly those earlier Haken records probably appealed more to prog fans who were sort of going to shows in the 60s and 70s,
Right.
because
Right.
some of our music was reminiscent of those bands as well. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, we have obviously dipped our toes in sort of the modern metal scene as well.
Mhm.
So there's definitely a larger crossover. And
Certainly.
our sounds is really difficult to pinpoint these days for sure.
Oh, absolutely. And this album may be more so.
We know
Uh,
that. We're very
yeah.
aware.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's great. I mean, you don't want to just, you got to make if you're an artist, you got to make what you're feeling. You can't really, you know, write for the fans per se or the genre. You have to, right? I assume that you're writing what you feel, and whatever that happens to be is what it happens to be, right?
Absolutely. We're making music that we would like to listen to. And because
Right.
we listen to so many different styles of music, even like across the six of us who have different tastes and
Tastes,
opinions
right.
and things, and it just comes out this way as this like really eclectic piece. And
Right.
but we're also very conscious that this new record, Fauna,
Mm.
would represent that and not be something that's very restrictive in terms of like what style we wanted to put out there. Like Vector and Virus definitely had
Right.
modern metal leanings, and that was intentional.
Right.
At this time, it was really anything goes. Let's give the people out there a sense of all the different aspects of what Haken are about, and put it on one record, like a greatest hits or something.
Yeah, it was like maybe greatest genres or something. Because I will tell you, I'm like I can't remember the name of the song. You can help me out, maybe.
Hmm.
Um, the second to last song. It's. I'm like
Elephants never forget.
Elvis
Is
Never
that one?
Forget.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, hold on, did I just turn on a Gentle Giant album?
Right. Yeah, that's the one. I think like that's the song on this record that
Yeah.
certainly fans of our older work will come to appreciate for sure.
Right.
Because
Right.
it goes through those movements. Yeah, there's elements of Gentle Giant and Queen, in
Right.
there, and as well as some heavier stuff to get your teeth into as well. It's a whole journey, really.
Yeah, it really is. I think that clocks in at in a 10-minute range. I can't remember, somewhere
Sure.
around there. So that's a great track. And the thing is, I'm not a huge Gentle Giant fan. I'm kind of maybe more into melodies and such that. But I like Gentle Giant, and then I heard this. I'm like, wow. I mean, you're even when you're singing, even emoting like a singer from Gentle Giant. They've had, I think, two or brothers or something like that. So I was really like, this really is overtly like Gentle Giant, I thought. But everything, I mean, but the whole album is so diverse. It's almost, this is an album I want to tell people that are listening to this or watching this video that it might take a couple listens. You like it
Sure.
immediately, but wow, it's so layered. And I don't know if there's a 4/4 time signature in the whole thing. It just seemed like, what is going on here? I can't even, I can't even, I don't even have a resting place to kind of like a, to kind of figure out what's going on, and
Yeah.
the subject matter too as well. But go ahead.
Sure. No, I absolutely agree with you. And
Yeah.
we kind of half expect not everyone's going to love everything, perhaps.
Right.
It's consciously quite divisive in that way.
Right. Right.
Uh just the very nature of being eclectic, really.
Hmm.
There's something for everyone, but in that situation, there's going to be things that people don't like necessarily. And I absolutely agree with you
Yeah.
that it's going to take more than two listens to unpack everything.
Yeah.
It's a very detailed, very layered piece of work, not just musically but lyrically, and
Hmm.
what we're trying to do with the themes of the animal kingdom as well. And
Right.
that's represented in the artwork behind you there as well.
Absolutely.
That was deliberately detailed and full of Easter eggs and things to
Oh yeah.
discover on multiple views, and in case of the music, multiple listens.
Uh,
Giving the music the shelf life we hope we think it deserves.
right. And that leads me to another question I had for you. Double LP looks amazing, and there's also I think there's a signed one as well.
Yeah, this I've got it here. Look, here we go.
Oh yeah.
We just got our copies
Oh, beautiful.
like the other day to check out.
That's an LP. Wow.
So this is the picture disc
Picture disc.
edition, and there's obviously two discs.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing, really. Like, if you are the kind of person who just streams music, that's fair enough. We love you.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening. But we've come at we've approached this project with the physical format in mind for sure, and like certainly with the artwork by Dan Goldsworthy, which you can see behind you anyway.
Yeah.
Not just the front cover, just everything in the booklets and everything like that. There's a lot of thought gone into it, and we hope that's something you'll appreciate as well.
That's an awesome thing, because I think I'm not always in tune with what Steven Wilson says, but what I really like I liked what he said about the physical media. You have to give people a reason to buy the physical media, and you have done that like with every millimeter of the album and the album artwork and such. And so it's really something that what I suggest people do is if they have the physical media, have it with you while you're listening to this album, because it will add to the experience, and it's kind of which harkens back to what people miss about those days, I believe.
Yeah, and worst case scenario, it makes great wallpaper. So,
well, let me ask you this: is the picture disc only available in the whole box set thing? Is it black vinyl, or the picture disc with I can't remember.
So I believe they're available on our own merch pre-orders.
Okay,
and they're going to be signed as well. But I think we're reserving a few for the tour, for the shows.
Okay.
Certainly on the European tour, they're probably going to go like so fast.
Yeah.
Given only 500 copies available.
Right.
Or 499 now, because I've got
one.
So yeah, that's definitely something to behold.
Okay.
If you can get hold of one, but
yeah, I would suggest getting it on the website.
There's other versions as well. We've got some cool like different color vinyls as well.
Okay, you do.
Depending where you pre-order, and they all look kind of sexy. So
all right, cool. Yeah, definitely. I definitely a big fan of kind of like colored vinyl, maybe the heavier vinyl, and so I find myself buying stuff that's with this kind of detail on it. So
Yeah,
let's talk.
if I may on this
Sure,
topic though, like to sort
absolutely.
of bring attention to Dan Goldsworthy, who was the artist.
Hmm.
He also, like most of us, came to know him because we saw what he did for Charlie's solo record Tiktalika
Okay,
last year, and
right.
what an amazing painting that was. And we wanted something hand painted for this as well because our previous records had been more simplistic, I'd say,
Hmm.
in their design and
Maybe compared to this, maybe not in
simplistic
general.
and effective, but
Mhm.
not to discredit it, but yeah, just stylistically, this is the route we wanted to take for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, his stuff it was different. It's minimalistic, I would say.
Mm,
Virus and such. When I think about
yeah.
that. But so let's talk a little bit about the album. I don't want to go through every song and everything, but
Mhm.
I did have a couple of things I noticed. Um, so it starts off, I believe, with Taurus, right?
Taurus,
Taurus. Sorry,
yes,
I know how to pronounce it. It's a sign in the astrological chart,
that's correct. Yeah.
and it's a bull. And there's some references to Avalon and such in there. And so I'm like, is there some sort of journey trying to find Excalibur going on there? And
Yeah.
and there's a lyric in there that says, "Our ambition is how we learn to fail." And so I'm kind of wondering here, what's going on? Is this more about is ambition a good thing because you learn from failure, or is ambition a bad thing
Mhm.
because it leads to failure? What do you have anything that you can
That was,
add to that?
yeah, I guess the former was more the case. Like
Yeah,
the the whole idea of trial and error. You've got
right.
to get things wrong to improve, and
Gotcha.
the whole piece is very multifaceted actually, even though
Hmm.
it's quite a short song. Because in some level, it's the starting point was just to sing about the annual stampede of the wildebeests, which was like
Ah,
the starting point as the sort of the animal reference anyway,
right.
on a very loose layer there. But then I started to write references to the whole idea of refugees and the sort of people
Hmm.
fleeing from the Ukraine was happening at the time I was writing
Right.
this as well. So I was kind of entering my psyche at the time, and but there's also sort of a layer to it about sort of the path of, I guess, spiritual enlightenment and
Hmm.
like your own sort of path to find yourself and this kind of thing and self improvement and
Hmm.
so yeah, there's a lot you can draw from it. I really don't like to reveal
Yes.
specifically everything
Right.
because it's personal and b everyone will find their own meanings anyway
So,
from these things and that's the way I like it. But yeah, you can hear those topics are
yeah.
raised.
So let me ask you about the alphabet of me a little bit. Just not much lyrically, but stylistically, you do these like quick staccato type lyrics in there, which you have heard you do in the past. Do you have like a how would you refer to the kind of phrasing that you do when you're singing in that format? Do you know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about?
yeah, of course I know what you're talking
Okay,
about. It's
yeah.
it's different. I wanted to try new things vocally on this record,
Hmm.
to not just get stuck on the same sort of passages and
Right,
deliveries.
right.
So when I was hearing because this track, I guess, was kind of put together by Pete
Mm,
and Rich and Ray mostly, and
okay,
so I started to hear all these kind of indie pop influences, alternative pop influences, and
okay.
there's a band that we all really love called Everything Everything,
Mm,
and that there's a vocal style that this guy has in the band that sort of has rubbed off on me on this particular track. I felt like that was the style I wanted to go for for this
okay.
verse and just kind of do it in my own way. But it's a yeah, I guess it's not quite a rap and it's not quite a regular kind of singing
Yeah,
a voice. It's just something in between, just a fastly paced staccato, trying to weave in lots of vowels and consonants and
yeah.
uh, yeah, it's a strange one. It's just something new, really. Just want to try it out.
Yeah, I think it works. It almost reminds me of like kind of reggae staccato. This from reggae I might hear in some of their lyrics, and then of course the rap kind of
Yeah.
because it's a very like the same note or a note next to that note, after at each phrase. So I really dig that. I think people should definitely
Cool.
check that out. And
Yeah, the real challenge for me on that one was that I was coming up with the phrasing first and then trying to fit the words
Words
to it
in.
afterwards, and that was just such a challenge, really.
You, yeah. You could end up with Susu Studio, just like Genesis
Right.
did when they
Well,
struck.
exactly.
uh, that actually Phil Collins. Was Beneath the White Mountain, did that come maybe from an improv session or some sort of jazz thing? Because that one seems very like really maybe the most complex song to me. I'm not a musician, so I don't really have a baseline for what is complex and what is not. But
Mhm.
as a listener, I feel like Beneath the White Mountain was the most like it seemed like a very organic type of song. Do you have any insight on that for me?
Yeah, Beneath the White Rainbow is the
Oh, White Rainbow. Thank you.
correct title. Apologies.
Thank you.
But
No, thank
yeah,
you.
this it was that one largely came from Pete, who's our returning keyboard player. He's was heavily involved in coming up with that, specifically the sort of the center part, which is largely instrumental and is reminiscent of the piano style of Tigran Hamasyan. I think I'm saying that wrong, but
Right.
a jazz musician that they love. All the rest, the whole band love this guy, and yeah, it's almost like Meshuggah played on the piano. It's that kind of style, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Nice.
that's I think was the approach on that song. Yeah, it's a heavy hitting song. It's a rocker, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Well,
all these things were kind of put together as a group in the end, but Pete started with that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I just noticed that you do give composer credits to everybody on every song, so I assume everything is pretty. It is a pretty synergy of everybody for the most part on these songs.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and like and there's one other thing I liked. I thought the guitar work on Lovebite is that the right title? Now I'm
Yeah, that's correct.
second guessing myself now. Just great. It's almost a solo, but there's so many things going on sonically that there's never really any solos, it seems like. But there's some really interesting guitar work in that track in particular. Did that one come from a guitar? I assume he wrote that part, or what happened?
So yeah, I mean, just before I get into that, like specifically that song though, and maybe on Island in the Clouds as well. There's definitely some moments on the guitar which were demoed by Rich and Charlie, and I'm pretty sure they were like, oh well, this is just placeholder stuff. I'm not really sure that's going to be the final thing, but you know,
right.
And everyone else was getting really excited about like how it was delivered and like specifically on the solos as well. And that was one that I think Rich the solo on that track Lovebite, which is something he tapped in really quickly just to put something in.
Oh yeah.
And we're like, well, this is absolutely amazing. I love this.
Right.
So it ended up staying, which is really cool because that's that sort of train of thought stuff, you know, that's
right.
That's music that's sort of put down in the moment and hasn't really gone through that process of overthinking it, you know. It's pure and natural, and there's a few moments on this record which are very much that, you know, they're not overly engineered to be a certain thing. They're just what's come out at the time, you know. And it's a beautiful thing, and it makes this record very organic in that sense.
Yeah, I definitely organicness of this is great, and somehow it doesn't. And it must have been, was it all written near the same time or during a session? Because it's very, it's a, you know, it's very, what's the right word?
Cohesive, or
it's it is cohesive despite being very diverse. That's kind of what I'm going for. It's really interesting how that happened. Did you have a sense of that? Do you agree with that? And did it make it tough for song order because of that?
Song order was tough. With the exception of Nightingale, which was deliberately sort of pushed forward ahead of time, and we wanted to get something out there, like in the interim, you know, between having done nothing for 3 years over the course of the pandemic, and but yeah, with the exception of that song, all the puzzle pieces of this record were kind of put together. I would say this time last year, February last year, when we dedicated a chunk of time where we were all living together, and you know, just dedicated every minute of every day, just putting these pieces together and formulating the structures of the songs and what the vocal melodies would do, and I guess the rest of the little details were sort of sprinkled on later. But yeah, it was certainly a product of getting together in that time and space, and I guess that's what's pulled those parts together and made it sound cohesive in that way. But like you said, even though it's very eclectic, and
Yeah.
each song could just be a digital single, but
Right.
it's definitely a timestamp on it.
Yeah.
In terms of when we all put it together.
Yeah. Okay. Because it definitely it surprised me. I have a couple albums that haven't come out yet that I feel the same way about how do these musicians do this, make it so diverse, yet it seems to come across as as a whole, it still holds together. So it's amazing that I think you guys have been working together for long enough where you can kind of pull that off. I don't know if everybody can pull that off.
I think another part of that is credit to the mixing engineer Jens Bogren and ensuring that his mixing style is cohesive as well across the board.
That's a good point.
And I think that's a very good point to add. For sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely. I've learned more and more how important that can be.
Certainly.
And let's talk about where to get the album. So your social media things here. I have something for your presser. I want to make sure everybody knows the website is hakenmusic.com, and you can find the store there. Everything you want is in the store. And there's also, they have a Twitter feed, Haken Official, the Facebook Haken Official, and Instagram Haken Official. So, you'll find it. There's some underscores in some of those, but you'll be.
We even have a TikTok now, which
you
is
have
like
a TikTok
2 days old.
All right, so you spin that up.
Brand new.
I will tell you, I'm watching a lot of videos on musicians on TikTok and use some great synergies there. You can even ask for duets and get some cross promotion, and I think it's a great idea. I think that we need to, as a genre, we need to embrace TikTok and streaming. So
I mean, I'd agree with you on one hand, but I'm
yeah,
probably showing my age that I tried to decipher TikTok and I just couldn't understand it.
Yeah, I'm the same way, but I still think there's embracing that needs to be done.
There is.
And granted, I will tell you that I look for the prog rock hashtag and stuff. There's not a lot of people consuming it either, so it'll have to. It's kind of a toe in the water thing. But is there anything else? Oh, let me ask you about touring. Is there anything announced? I actually did do any research on possible tours.
So the touring schedule, we should have most of the dates up that have been confirmed so far. Okay. We're going at it heavy this year. Like we really want to push the band to the next level.
Okay.
We've got an extensive European tour, which is like 2 weeks away now. We're about to set off with Between the Buried and Me as our co-headliner.
Oh, nice.
Obviously, the timing of that is funny because the album will drop sort of midway through that tour. So like there'll be a few of the singles performed live, but we're sort of keeping the rest under our sleeves, I guess.
Okay.
And then we follow up with a extensive North American tour.
Nice.
With support from Arch Echo.
Okay.
That runs from May 3rd through to June 3rd. I think it's a month.
Yeah.
Long, and all the major cities are covered.
Yep. Okay. Cool.
And beyond that, we have a festival season across the UK and Europe, which we're hoping to exploit. And I've no doubt that we are going to return to other territories. Beyond that in the fall. So, yeah, it's going to be a busy year for Haken for sure.
Thanks for hanging out with us, and we'll be airing this when we feature the album in a couple of weeks. So, what's the release date?
The release date is March the 3rd.
Okay, so set your calendars for that. Feel free to pre-order. There's already things available to order. You can get it in any country. You'll be able to find, I think, local shipping for many countries.